Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Saba Show. And today we are doing a round recap of the Carlton Richmond game as a Carlton supporter. And boy, oh boy, the drought is over, lads. The drought is over. It has been 10 years since we got up against Richmond in the opening game of the season to go 1-0, and we did it. And boy, was it a great game of football to get the job done in. So many great moments. First and foremost, very good to be back at the footy. Atmosphere was electric. 72,000 in. Felt like 100,000. I was, surrounded by Blues supporters. And they were very vocal. But that's what I think this Carlton football side were missing. People to play for. Because when you're surrounded by these people, supporting you, cheering your name, cheering your team on, that's when you realize what you're playing for. You realize that, it was all words. Like Michael Voss has probably talked to the players, and he definitely has because he said it. He's talked to the players about what it means like to be a player of the Carlton Football Club. And even though he's said it, you won't actually understand it until you play a game in front of a crowd and hear the roars you kick goals and hear the roars you get holding the ball for a kick. But it was just great to see. This win, though, was nuts. I think this was very telling. It's very early in the season, but if you think about it, in past seasons, Richmond would run over the top in the final quarter. This time, we taught the fourth quarter specialists an absolute lesson. An absolute lesson. We kicked 7 goals, 5 in the last quarter. Outscored them by 60. 60 points. Yep, that's right. We were down by 20 at one point in the last after a Shea Bolton goal. That was his third. Believe it or not, I had an inkling. Second quarter, we came back from 20 down at the first change. Took the lead at the half. And it happened again. It was basically a carbon copy in two halves. First half, Richmond came out of the blocks. Did basically anything they wanted. We put no pressure on them. And they basically ran rings. Shea Bolton looked like the best player on the ground, and he probably was on the night for Richmond. Yeah, but that's why they had that lead. We were second to the football. We were sloppy. We couldn't mark the footy. We couldn't kick the footy. Basically, all the skills, all the fundamentals were thrown out the window, and we played like garbage. And the scoreline showed for it. Probably were very lucky to not be down by more. Second quarter, the lads woke up. Cripps, Kennedy, Hewett, Cerra. That involvement, that's what we're going to need to win games this season. I feel like the forward line, we're going to be less reliant on them. I think ultimately, it's what happens in the engine room for this football club, which is going to be decisive in winning a lot of games. It is very dependent on those four winning the footy, getting us those clearances, and winning the game. So in that second quarter, Patrick Cripps was like, nah, fuck this. I'm not going out without trying. And he kicked 2 goals. He had a huge second quarter. Matty Kennedy, I think, kicked 1 as well. And that got us right back into it. The crowd was involved. Also in the second quarter, Sam Doherty kicks a goal. The crowd is upstanding for that guy. He has worked so hard. It's an absolutely remarkable story that he was able to get up for round 1. And not only that, but play a vintage Sam Doherty game. We've talked about it in a past video on this channel that Sam Doherty had some rough moments last season as captain. Obviously, he's stepped down. The pressure's relieved. He's got the support. He's got the backing by the fans. And that goal meant so much to him. And it's so much more special when the players are absolutely swarming him, when the fans are upstanding, basically cheering him on, revving him on. It's just special stuff, and that's ultimately why you play footy. Those big moments like that, those family type moments, where football club fans, players, coaches are united as one. Third quarter, I don't know how many Richmond free kicks they got, that resulted in goals. That number 22 umpire was an absolute flog, and he always is coaching Carlton games. Last night was no exception. Quite a pain in the ass, but Richmond were giving, basically getting it gifted to them on a platter. Mind you, there were some questionable calls that should have gone their way, but there were a lot of calls that just did not exist, or there was a little bit of mayo put on them, so the umpires could see it and they would pay it. But it's almost like we've played one game in the season or two games now, and it's like, well, what's the state of the game if you're giving away free kicks for like contesting a marking contest fairly? Like there was one where Durden tried to spoil Ralph Smith, and apparently they called it front on contact when he was clearly side on, and they just blew the whistle and called a free kick basically out their ass. It was not there. Last quarter was probably one of the biggest dominations I've seen from the Carlton Football Club in a very, very long time. As I said, fourth quarter specialists are the Richmond Tigers, and they just went missing. Very one-paced. Dion Prestia was out in the second quarter, and that was a key cog of their midfield they were missing. There weren't there wasn't really enough of a framework to hold them up after that. Obviously did well to get that buffer in the third quarter, but just not enough legs in the last. I think there was a point where Carlton had 10 of the first 11 clearances in the last quarter. I think in the last 40 minutes I saw a stat where we had 30 inside 50s to 4. That basically spoke volumes. Cerra had 12 in the last quarter. Kennedy, Cripps, TDK was getting clearances himself. It was just all going our way. And Richmond were never getting it out of the centre circle from a centre bounce. We just blew them up. And that's what we did against the D's for 3 quarters, the best part of 3 quarters. The same thing. The clearance lopsidedness was unbelievable. And it happened again in the last quarter. Or I guess you could say the second and fourth quarters. But no, it's just an unreal feeling. And as I said, the atmosphere was nuts, It's not too often Richmond fans get waved goodbye by a Carlton fan club at the MCG. It's usually Richmond doing all that and letting us know that we've lost the game of footy. But here we are. Carlton are winners. There was a fair bit of doubt until the final siren went because you didn't quite believe it. You didn't quite know how to react to it except cheer and be vocal. That's why I've lost my voice. Because, for some people, they've worked a pretty hard 9 to 5 and they're like, well, let me go to the footy so I can let off some anger and a bit of rage. And we were able to do that. And it actually spurred the team on into getting a win. The players were enthusiastic. I didn't see Michael Voss's reaction, but I can imagine it was something similar. But it's very important not to get carried away. A lot of Carlton fans are just going to get so excited, get a bit complacent and say, well, we're going to make finals now because we've won the first game of the year. I well and truly know that we haven't won round 1 for years on end, and every single year we haven't made the finals. But in saying that, I don't want to be saying that this early on. Some people are saying the sleeping giant has woke up. Shut up. Don't jinx us yet. The good thing, though, is that it was a lot of the midfielders doing the work. Harry and Charlie combined for 1 goal. I look at the goal scorers for Carlton. Amazing spread of goal scorers. 3 to Cripps, 2 to Durden, 1 to Cerra, 1 to Doc, 1 to Fisher, 1 to Hewett, 1 to Kennedy, 1 to Martin, 1 to Harry, 1 to Lockie, and 1 to JSOS. All those players, nearly all of them, are exclusively midfielders or small forwards. And I have to say, in past years, that would be a main point of concern. Not enough output from your small forwards and not enough output from your midfielders. And the fact that those 4 players in the guts combined for, I think, 6 goals is perfect. It's very promising. And we did not have Sam Walsh. We didn't have Sam Walsh. That is also baffling to me. Who goes out of this side when Walsh comes back? My thought was that Lockie O'Brien is probably going to be the odd one out. And he's going to get sent off. Because he had some very iffy moments, mind you. Here's one guy that was absolutely killing me. Obviously, it was great to see him kick the goal in the last quarter. courtesy of a few 50-metre penalties. That's another thing. We got probably the same amount of output from 50-metre penalties as we did against the Ds, and you weren't quite sure if that was going to replicate itself, but it did. It just seems that every team that plays us so far this season is just wanting to gift us some free goals, and some people will say, well, it wasn't a true win because you got 6 goals from 50-metre penalties, and I'll say, well, Richmond weren't good enough to not concede them. It's as simple as that. You take them, and ultimately the final score speaks for itself. 101-76. I would argue that we deserved it much more than Richmond did. But you look at the disposal winners as well. 4 players, 28 plus, and no surprises. It was Kennedy, Cripps, Cerra, Hewett. As I said, those 4 are going to be key. Doherty with 26 in a goal. You love to see it. And Adam Cerra was influential with 21 touches. 17 of those kicks. Some good tackles as well. One stat that I think is really underrated. Paddy Cripps, 679 metres gained. And I think last season he probably would have struggled to get 200, 300, even if he had a 30 possession game. Because if he had a 30 possession game, he's getting like 26 handballs or something outrageous like that. Tonight or yesterday, he had 17 kicks. And a lot of them were clearances and a lot of them were goals. So that's where the 679 comes from. That's very important though. Cerra 508. Kennedy 514, Adam Cerra 499. So a lot of running by him. There was one great chase down tackle on Jake Arts, I believe, in the third quarter. That was exceptional. That got the crowd roaring as well. Corey Durden, 2 goals and 14. Very good game. Probably his best of his career, mind you. He has not played many of those, but it's been very good to see a couple competent small forwards running around in the forward line as well. I have so much to say, and not enough time to say it, so I'm going to wrap things up here. People saying, Carlton are acting like they've won the flag. Let us enjoy the moment. We're going to be partying for 7 days, and then we'll be hit with a reality check against the Bulldogs. I'm hoping that's not the case. I'm hoping we can keep things up. And if we can play a full game like we did in the last quarter again for 4 quarters, there's going to be a few problems for the rest of the league. But obviously, we'll talk about that moment when we get there. If you did enjoy this, drop a like and subscribe. We will be doing weekly reactions or game reviews for all the Carlton games. So make sure to stay tuned for those. But for now, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.